میں تلاوت قرآن پاک کے لیے میں ترین ذکی کو بھی انوائٹ کروں گا کہ وہ اسٹیج پہ تشریف لے کر آئیں. تلاوت قرآن پاک سے شروع کرتے ہوئے میں حاجرہ زاہدی ستی کو انوائٹ کروں گا کہ وہ اسٹیج پہ تشریف لے کر آئیں.
اعوذ باللہ من الشیطان الرجیم بسم اللہ الرحمن الرحیم انا انزلناہ فی لیلۃ القدر وما ادراک ما لیلۃ القدر لیلۃ القدر خیر من الف شہر تنزل الملائکۃ والروح فیہا بعزن ربہم من کل امر سلام ہی حتی مطلع الفجر. ترجمہ: بے شک ہم نے نازل کیا اس قرآن کو شب قدر میں، اور آپ کو کیا معلوم کہ شب قدر کیا ہے؟ شب قدر 1000 مہینوں سے بہتر ہے. اترتے ہیں فرشتے اور روح جبرائیل علیہ السلام اس میں اپنے رب کے حکم سے ہر کام کے لیے. سلامتی والی ہے یہ رات طلوع فجر تک. صدق اللہ العظیم.
جزاک اللہ. اب میں نعت کے لیے محمد عبداللہ اوان کو انوائٹ کروں گا کہ وہ اسٹیج پہ تشریف لے کر آئیں. میں محمد الطاف صاحب سے ریکویسٹ کروں گا کہ وہ نعت کے لیے اسٹیج پہ تشریف لے کر.
صلی علی نبینا صلی علی محمد صلی علی شفیعنا صلی علی محمد. کوئی سلیقہ ہے آرزو کا، نہ بندگی میری بندگی ہے، یہ سب تمہارا کرم ہے آقا، کہ بات اب تک بنی ہوئی ہے، یہ سب تمہارا کرم ہے آقا. عطا کیا مجھے کو درد الفت، کہاں تھی پر خطا کی قسمت، میں اس کرم کے کہاں تھا قابل، حضور کی بندہ پروری ہے، یہ سب تمہارا کرم ہے آقا. بشیر کئی ہے نذیر کئی ہے، انہیں منیر کئی ہے، جو سر بسر ہے کلام ربی، جو سر بسر ہے کلام ربی، وہ میرے آقا کی زندگی ہے، یہ سب تمہارا کرم ہے آقا، تجلیوں کے کفیل تم ہو، مراد قلب خلیل تم ہو، خدا کی روشن دلیل تم ہو، خدا کی روشن دلیل تم ہو، یہ سب تمہاری ہی روشنی ہے، یہ سب تمہارا کرم ہے آقا، کہ بات اب تک بنی ہوئی ہے، یہ سب تمہارا کرم ہے آقا۔
سبحان اللہ۔ پروگرام کو آگے بڑھاتے ہوئے اس سے پہلے میں اپنے بار کونسل کے جتنے امیدوار ہیں ان کا شکریہ ادا کرنا چاہتا ہوں، خصوصاً ریاست علی آزاد صاحب کا، خورشید بٹ صاحب کا، جو آصف عرفان صاحب کا، جو اپنے قیمتی وقت سے ٹائم نکال کے آئیں اور یہ سیشن اٹینڈ کر رہے ہیں، سردار مسروف صاحب جن کی سرجری ہوئی ہے اس کے بعد وہ بار میں تشریف لے کر آئے ہیں، ان کا شکریہ کرتا ہوں۔ اسی کے ساتھ ساتھ آپ کو ویلکم کرنے کے لیے میں ہمارے صدر اسلام آباد بار ایسوسی ایشن سردار محمد یعقوب مستوی صاحب کو انوائٹ کروں گا کہ وہ آپ کا شکریہ ادا کریں۔
بسم اللہ الرحمن الرحیم۔ تمام تعریفیں اس پاک ذات کی جس نے تمام جہان تخلیق کیے، کروڑ ہاتھ درود و سلام اس عظیم ہستی پہ جو وجہ کائنات بنے۔ سٹیج پہ بیٹھی میری قیادت وائس چیئرمین اسلام آباد بار کونسل نصیر احمد کیانی صاحب، میرے معزز گیسٹ بیرسٹر تصدق حنیف صاحب، اور تمام تر این جی اوز جن میں جناح لا ایسوسی ایشن، پاکستان اسکاؤٹ اینڈ گائیڈ فیلوشپ اور رخشندہ میموریل کے اشتراک سے آج اس لیکچر کا انعقاد ہوا، اور اس لیکچر کے بعد ہم الحمدللہ پلانٹیشن کریں گے۔ آپ تمام دوستوں کا بے حد شکریہ، آپ اسٹوڈنٹس کا بے حد شکریہ۔ میرے سیکرٹری صاحب میڈم کا نام بھول گئے تھے تو یہ بھی ہماری کینڈیڈیٹ ہے، میں ان کو بھی ویلکم کرتا ہوں، اور آپ تمام دوستوں کا، سینئرز کا اور اسٹوڈنٹس کا بے حد شکریہ کہ آپ چھٹیوں میں بھی ہمارے ایک نوٹس پہ تشریف لے آئے، ہمیں عزت بخشی۔ انشاءاللہ تعالیٰ انوائرمنٹل لا پہ لیکچر ہوگا اور آپ مستفید ہوں گے۔ تھینک یو۔
اور میں کیونکہ شکریہ ادا کر چکا ہوں ہمارے امیدوار بار کونسل کا، لیکن اسپیشلی میں میڈم سعدیہ کا بھی شکریہ ادا کرتا ہوں کہ انہوں نے ٹائم نکالا۔ اسی کے ساتھ ساتھ میں اپنے وائس چیئرمین اسلام آباد بار کونسل سے ریکویسٹ کروں گا کہ وہ بھی آ کے بار میں شکریہ ادا کریں۔
بسم اللہ الرحمن الرحیم۔ اگست میں چونکہ چھٹیاں ہوتی ہیں اور خاص طور پر آخری دنوں میں ہمارے تمام وکلاء اگر پورا مہینہ ان سے ٹائم نہ بھی نکلے تو آخری دنوں میں، آخری ہفتے میں وہ لازمی اپنی فیملی کے ساتھ ٹائم نکالتے ہیں۔ تو اس موقع پر اتنے بڑی تعداد میں یہاں وکلاء کا موجود ہونا اس بات کی دلیل ہے کہ مستوی صاحب نے वाकई सदारत का चार्ज संभाला हुआ है। और जो आज का मौजू है उसके हवाले से भी हमारे ये भी इस बात की दलील है कि उसके हवाले से भी हमारे वकला में इंतहाई दिलचस्पी मौजूद है। और दुनिया में जिस तरह के आज के मामलात चल रहे हैं इन्वायरमेंट के हवाले से, हम खुद इसका जो है वो ये खैबर पख्तूनख्वा में इसका सामना कर चुके हैं। अल्लाह पाक वहाँ जो आफत आई है उसमें जिन लोगों के घर तबाह हुए हैं और जो उस सैलाब में नुकसानात हुए हैं, अल्लाह पाक उन्हें जो शहीद हुए हैं उन्हें जन्नतुल फिरदौस में आला मकाम अता फरमाए, और जिनका नुकसान हुआ है वो नुकसान अल्लाह पाक ही पूरा करने वाला है। और हम दोस्तों ने भी आप सब दोस्तों से भी रिक्वेस्ट है कि अपनी अपनी कम्युनिटी में उन दोस्तों की मदद के लिए अपना अपना किरदार अदा करें। ये आफत किसी भी वक्त किसी पे भी आ सकती है। आज वो मुसीबत में है तो हमारा ये हक बनता है, फ़र्ज़ बनता है कि हम उनकी जितनी भी हो सके मदद करें। और आज का ये मौजू जो आज का ये तकरीब है वो इसी हवाले से है, और इसकी अशद ज़रूरत है कि जितने भी पौधे लगाए जाएं, जितना भी माहौल को बेहतर किया जाए, वो इन आफात से बचने का एक ज़रिया है। आप दोस्तों का बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया, बहुत मेहरबानी आप तशरीफ़ लाए। और तसद्दुक़ हनीफ साहब हमारे बहुत अच्छे हमारे भाई हैं, दोस्त हैं, उन्होंने इस पे आपको लेक्चर देना है और इस हवाले से उनका लेक्चर जो है आप सुनेंगे इंशाअल्लाह, आपके इल्म में इजाफ़ा होगा। बहुत शुक्रिया, बहुत मेहरबानी।
अब मैं हमारे गेस्ट स्पीकर बैरिस्टर तसद्दुक़ हनीफ से रिक्वेस्ट करूंगा कि वो एनवायरमेंटल लॉज पर आके एक अपना लेक्चर डिलीवर करें।
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. First of all, I am thankful to the Cabinet of the District Bar who have invited me to deliver a lecture on the environmental laws. And I'd like to thank all the participants who are attending this lecture for taking the time out. Environmental laws is a very esoteric area of law. It's a lesser known area of law. In fact, this is even my first time before I had a look at this law, because usually this is not in practice. We hardly find anyone who has expertise in the environmental areas of law. Like any other statute, the primary statute dealing with the environmental laws in Pakistan is the Pakistan Environmental Protection Act of 1997. There are a number of other laws which deal with matters relating to environment, matters relating to wastages, matters relating to hazardous things, but the primary piece of legislation is this, the Pakistan Environmental Protection Act of 1997. Like any other statute, the preamble gives the purpose why the statute was enacted. The purpose of enacting this piece of legislation was the protection, conservation, rehabilitation, and improvement of the environment. When we talk of environment, environment is much more than trees. Environment is much more than plants. Environment is anything which is below this firmament. It includes land, it includes water, it includes air. So air pollution, wastages, water pollution, these all are covered under this law. Section 1 of the Environmental Protection Act, since I have a limited slot of 20 minutes, I'd skim through it. And if you guys have any questions that arise out of this law, I'd be more than happy to address them, but that would be towards the end of the lecture. So appreciate if you could listen to what I have to say, and then I'd be more than happy to answer the questions that may arise as a result of that. Section 1 of the Environmental Protection Act of 1997 says that it would come into force at once, which means it would come into force as soon as it is promulgated. Now, apart from this primary piece of legislation, there are certain provisions in the Constitution of Pakistan as well, which provide a redressal to people who are affected when there's a contravention of environmental law. The primary articles of the Constitution which are relevant in this regard are Article 14 and Article 26 of the Constitution. Article 14 of the Constitution deals with the dignity of the man. So, living in an environment which is conducive to living, which is peaceful, which is free from pollution, is a basic right, and it is protected as a fundamental right in the Constitution of Pakistan. It would fall under the heading of the dignity of human life, which is Article 14 of the Constitution. Then there is Article 26 of the Constitution, which says non-discrimination in respect to access to public places. At times we see that there are parks, there are places which are only accessible by a few. So where there's a public place, it is accessible to each and every citizen of Pakistan, regardless of his social status or regardless of any anomaly. So these basic two articles are also relevant, and when you are looking at the environmental laws of Pakistan, one should have a look at Article 14 and Article 26 of the Constitution of Pakistan. As usual, any statute made in Pakistan usually has a definition clause. The definition clause is usually Section 2 of the Act. It gives a number of definitions. For example, what a wastage is, what hazardous material is, what environmental impact is. There are a number of definitions. What is an environmental magistrate? So these definitions are there in the statute, and I would not, for the sake of wasting my time, I would not go through those definitions. There are about 20 or more definitions provided in the statute. Section 3 provides for the establishment of an agency for the council, which would be known by the name of Pakistan Environmental Protection Council. Pakistan Environmental Protection Council, the chairperson of the council is to be the sitting Prime Minister of Pakistan. If he is not available, it is his nominee who's going to be the vice chair, who's going to be the chairperson of the council. The vice chairperson of the council would be the minister in charge of the relevant ministry which deals with the environmental laws. So the PM or his nominee and the vice chairperson would be the person who would be the minister in charge of the environmental protection laws. Then there are members in it. Members would be the chief ministers of the relevant provinces. Now, after the 18th Amendment, we all know that provinces have legislated on subjects which are common to the Federation as well. So there are a number of provincial statutes. For example, the Khyber Pakhtunkhwa Environmental Law, the Balochistan Environmental Protection Act of 2012, they've also legislated. And if it's a provincial matter, that legislation would prevail. I'd skim through it. If I take time and elaborate on each and every section, I'd hardly make it through. Section 4. Section 4 provides for the functions of the council. The functions of the council are enumerated as the enforcement of the provisions of this act, to approve policies, make policies, and to approve the national environmental quality standards as well. We hardly see the law in implementation in Pakistan. Although the law is there, implementation is not there. We hardly see companies food companies, people who are providing for certain items to be complying with the law. So although the law is there, the primary defect is in the implementation, as we see in any other law in Pakistan. There are hundreds and thousands of laws, but there are hardly any implementation over there. So if there is some room, the room is there in the implementation of the law. Towards the end of the lecture, I'd give you 20 statutes. In fact, PPC deals with matters which pertain to environment, which pertain to noise pollution. For example, if we look at the law of nuisance, it says a lot about noise. It says a lot about how things are to be done. अभी आते हुए मेरी गाड़ी खड्डे में एक में लगी है. This also comes within the ambit of environmental law. As in, I have a right to travel without any hindrance, without any hurdle, and that falls within the ambit of nuisance. So at times there's an overlap. But since we are all aware of the law, we know whenever there's a conflict between a general law and a special law, the special law will prevail. So if there is a contravention which primarily concerns environmental aspect of things, it is this law which is going to be the first port of call for anyone. Section 5 deals with the establishment of the agency which is going to enforce the law. It would be known as the Pakistan Environmental Protection Agency. It has a number of things. It would be headed by a Director General. His tenure would be fixed by the government, but the statute does not say much about it. It shall administer the law, have a mechanism for the protection of the rights that are given in the law. Now we come to section 6. What are the functions of the federal agency? Don't confuse this federal agency with FIA. This is a federal agency under the 1997 Act. That is also known as a Federal Investigation Agency. This is also known as a federal agency, but the complete title is the Pakistan Environmental Protection Agency. So the functions, the primary functions of the federal agency is to administer and implement the act and the rules that are made under the statute, to prepare policies, to propose and publish any shortcomings that are there, and those shortcomings are to be addressed to. The powers, there are numerous powers that the agency has. It has the power to rent, purchase, acquire premises for the purposes of implementing the law. It has the powers to confiscate property, or to stop a business, or to stop a company or a person which falls foul of the 1997 Act. For example, if there's a kiln, brick making kiln, it's polluting the air, the federal agency, this is just giving you an example, has the power to stop that kiln, impose fine, and even impose imprisonment. So Section 7 provides for the powers. Now, Section 8, I have a cursory look at that, is the establishment of the provincial agencies. So, in line with the federal agency, the provinces have powers to establish their own provincial agencies which would cater for any contravention of the environmental breach of environmental protection laws. Section 9 is not that important for the purposes. Says of establishment of a development fund that is necessary for conducting the affairs of the agency. Now, Section 11 provides a prohibition that certain materials, certain things cannot be brought into Pakistan. For example, if it's a nuclear waste, if it's some sort of a material that is going to damage the environment, or affect the health of the people, Section 11 provides for a prohibition, and such an article or such goods cannot be imported in Pakistan. Section 12. Now, this is something which has a practical implication. We see that before this act, whenever buildings were made, there were a number of reports concerning the structure, concerning the financial aspects of those buildings or corporations were made. But by virtue of this act, in particular Section 12, now the person who is about to embark upon the enterprise of doing something has to prepare an environmental assessment file, and he has to submit that file to the relevant authorities. For example, if the structure is made, how many trees are cut, how many workers are there, what is the kind of a noise that is going to be produced, whether there is going to be dust or not. Each and everything is to be prepared and filed with the agency. This is known as the environmental impact assessment. So any building, any business which does not file its impact assessment report falls foul of not just the law but also the building regulations that are in place. Now, if there is some need and certain hazardous thing has to be brought in Pakistan, Section 14 of the statute deals with that. In order to bring materials which are generally considered to be hazardous in nature, a license is to be obtained by the relevant government, and without obtaining that license, that material or those goods cannot be brought into Pakistan. Section 15. Section 15 deals with the regulations as to the motor vehicles. For example, the noise that they make, the emissions that they throw in the air. We usually see कि किसी मोटर बाइक के ऊपर साइलेंसर निकाल के वो भूम 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 करता चल रहा होता है. This person would fall foul of Section 15 of the Act, and he can be imposed a fine up to ₹1 million just for taking his silencer out and making a noise which would disturb the peace of the citizens. So Section 15 particularly deals with motor vehicles and the nuisance or the environmental breach that is created by the motor vehicle. So apart from the motor vehicles ordinance, this Section 15 would also come into play. Section 16 deals with the Environmental Protection Order. The federal agency can make an order to stop or to restrict or to regulate any business which is falling foul of the environmental protection laws. An order would be known as the Environmental Protection Order. And if there's a breach and a fine is imposed, that fine would be recovered as areas of land revenue. So, Section 17 is perhaps the most elaborate and the most important of the sections. It deals with the penalties. Now, try and understand that this section is primarily divided into two subsections, Section 17.1 and Section 17.2. When we look at the statute, we see that there are two adjudicating authorities primarily created under the law. One is known as the Environmental Magistrate and the other is the Environmental Tribunal. So, if there is a contravention of sections which are mentioned in Section 17.1, the relevant adjudicating authority would be that which is the tribunal. And when there's a contravention of anything which falls under Section 17.2, the relevant authority would be the Environmental Magistrate. So there are two forums available. We're going to look at the relevant section. If the relevant section is in 17.1, it is the tribunal which is going to adjudicate upon those matters. And if the relevant section is 17.2, it is the environmental magistrate who is going to deal with those matters. There are a number of penalties. Fine is up to 1 million rupees. If the nuisance or the contravention continues, a fine can be up to 100,000 rupees per day. Now, if it continues despite the order, there's an imprisonment of 2 years which can be imposed on a person who is habitually contravening the sections of the Environmental Protection Act. Section 18 deals with offences which are done by corporate bodies. We all understand that companies are not natural persons, they're juristic persons. So if some contravention is done by a juristic person, a person who is in charge of that corporate body, for example, if it's a firm, the partners would be held liable. If it is a company, a public limited company, the CEO of the company will be held liable. Because obviously you cannot impose a fine on a juristic person without there being a real person there. So it is the person who is in charge, who deals with who is there to perform the primary functions of that body, he's going to be held responsible. Similarly, Section 19 deals with offences by government agencies or authorities. So who's going to be held responsible? The head of that department would be held responsible. This is Section 19. Section 20. Section 20 deals with the tribunal. The tribunal consists of a chairman and 2 other members. The chairman or the chairperson, these terms are interchangeably used. The chairperson would be a person who would be qualified to be appointed as a judge of a high court. So he must have at least 10 years of high court practice and other relevant qualifications in order to be appointed as the chairperson of the tribunal. There are going to be 2 other members. At least one would be a technical member who would understand the nitty-gritty of things. So the tribunal consists of 3 people, the chairperson and 2 other members. The quorum that is required is at least a chairperson and 1 other member. So if it's just the chairperson or just the 2 members, the tribunal would not sit and would not be able to adjudicate. At least 1 chairperson and 1 member is required for the tribunal to function. Now, jurisdiction, as I've already said, the jurisdiction of the tribunal would be concerning the sections which are mentioned in 17.1 of the 1997 Act. So any contravention of the sections which are mentioned in Section 17 of the Act would be adjudicated by the tribunal. How is the tribunal going to adjudicate on matters? Whether anyone can call a tribunal or a chairperson? No. It has to be a complaint in writing. That complaint in writing would be either by the federal agency, the agency that has been created by the 1997 Act, or any aggrieved person. But these are the 2 things. It needs to be formally in writing before the tribunal would take cognizance of the matter. As far as criminal matters are concerned, the tribunal would have the powers of a session judge. As far as civil matters are concerned, the powers of the tribunal would be that of an appellate court under the Civil Procedure Code. So, and whenever there is no law provided or the procedure provided, the relevant procedure would be the Civil Procedure Code that is going to govern the Act. Section 22 deals with the appeals. If there's an order passed by a federal agency if there is some penalty, some fine imposed, appeal would be made to the Environmental Tribunal within 30 days of the written order of the federal agency. Appeal from the tribunal would go to the High Court. Then again, the limitation is 30 days. As soon as a written order is received, a person who's aggrieved of the order of the tribunal would go to the High Court. And it is not going to be a single judge, it is going to be a divisional bench, DB, 2 judges would sit and adjudicate the matter. So, jurisdiction of the magistrate is given in section 24 of the Act. As I have already mentioned, if there is a contravention of the provisions provided in section 17(2) of the Act, those sections would be adjudicated by the magistrate and not the tribunal. So obviously 20-minute slot, 34 sections, I have to skim through them. Appeals from the magistrate would go to the sessions judge. And then again, the time limitation is 30 days. And one thing which is important is that the decision of the sessions judge would be the final decision. There's no more appeal, revision, review available in the law. So any decision made by a magistrate pursuant to section 24 of the Act would be appealable to the sessions judge, and the decision of the sessions judge would attain finality. And that's the last forum available as far as the decision of the magistrate is concerned. Now, non-obstante clauses. Any one of you know what a non-obstante clause is? Madam? Madam, you've been teaching law, you would know. What is a non-obstante clause? Non-obstante clauses are there almost in all of the special laws. Any law which says that this law would have an overriding effect, that clause in fancy language is known as a non-obstante clause. What it primarily means is that if there's a contravention between some other law, see, the principle is that if there's a clash of an ordinary and a special law would prevail. If there is a clash of 2 laws, the one made later in time would prevail. Now this clause says that no matter when or where or who made the law, if there is a clash between the 2 laws, it is this law which would prevail. It would have an overriding effect. So clauses which provide for an overriding effect of the law is known as the non-obstante clause. That is there in almost every special law. That is there in NAB, that is there in environmental protection laws, that is there made in consumer laws. So those clauses are clauses which have an overriding effect are known as non-obstante clause. This is section 30 of the statute, the 1997 statute. 31 deals with the powers to make rules pursuant to the 1997 law. I've skimmed through it. Power to make regulations is provided.
Special laws are the ones that
Sorry?
special laws are
I can't hear you properly.
non-obstante.
No. Clauses. Your question is, what is a non-obstante clause? A one-liner. Any clause which says that this law would have an overriding effect is known as a non-obstante clause.
Except that laws are called as special laws.
This whole of the law is special law, but that very clause which provides for an overriding effect would be known as a non-obstante clause. So, section 33 gives a power to make regulations pursuant to this law. We're almost done with the statute. There are 34, 35 sections, and we've covered almost all of it. The other provincial statutes which might be of relevance are the Punjab Environmental Protection Act of 1997. Then Sindh has made laws, which is the Sindh Environmental Protection Act of 2014. Khyber Pakhtunkhwa has a 2014 Act. Balochistan has a 2012 Act. Then there are a number of other statutes which deal with matters pertaining to environmental laws. A number of them are the pollution charge for industries rules of 2001. The Pakistan Penal Code, as I've earlier said, deals with certain matters which fall within the ambit of environmental laws. If you are to read section 268, that provides a definition of what a nuisance is. PPC की बात कर रहा हूँ. 290 provides for the punishment for that nuisance. Other relevant sections are 269, 283, 291, 270, 277. I know you would not be able to keep up with what I'm saying, so just hear me out. The Forest Act of 1927, the Wild Birds and Animals Protection Act of 1912, the Fisheries Ordinance, the Factories Act, the Canal and Drainage Act, and the Cutting of Trees Prohibition Act of 1992. These are all the laws which are relevant to our environment and provide for punishments and protection of the environment in Pakistan. I am extremely grateful. I was short on time, that's why I had to rush through. I hope I've not taken more time than the slot given to me. I'm thankful to all of you for attending the lecture and giving me a very patient hearing. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Now I'd like to invite Kainat Shabir, the President, Jinnah Law Association, Rawalpindi, for giving a brief introduction.
Assalamu alaikum everyone. This is Kainat Shabir, the President of Jinnah Law Association, Rawalpindi chapter. Jinnah Law Association is basically a law organization that was founded in 2023 by Mr. Adil Nawaz, who is the founder and the Chief Executive Officer of Jinnah Law Association. The mission behind forming Jinnah Law Association was that we basically wanted to bridge the gap between the academic knowledge and the practical knowledge that is gained in the legal world. So we wanted to provide a platform to the young aspiring legal minds where they could come together, they could connect with each other, and they can refine their advocacy skills. And we initially started at Hyderabad, but then we extended to Karachi and Rawalpindi. So this was a very brief introduction about our organization, and as far as today's lecture is concerned, I would like to thank our esteemed speaker, Barister Tassadaq Hanif, for delivering such an insightful lecture on environmental laws. Thank you so much, sir. And yes, I would like to mention Sir Iftihar Baju. I don't know if he's present here or not yet, but I would like to thank him for referring us to President Yaqub Masturi, who was actually the backbone behind this whole event. And he assisted us with all the logistics, and he was helping us throughout this whole process. So thank you so much, sir. It wouldn't have been possible without your help. And also I would like to mention our collaborating partners, the Rakhshanda Memorial, for all they were basically the integral part of this whole event. And I met these girls back in 2024, I remember. And since then I've seen them achieve milestones, and I won't be telling much about their organization because that would be told by Tehreem herself. And thank you so much, guys, for being a part of this thing. And yes, I cannot forget my team, the Rawalpindi team of Jinnah Law Association, for all the tireless efforts they have done since so many days for making this session a success, and all the participants who are present here. Thank you so much, guys, that you took out your time to be a part of this event. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you, Kainat Shabir. Now I'd like to invite, on behalf of the Secretary PSGF, Bilal Mughal صاحب, ان کے behalf پہ میں زاہد صاحب کو انوائٹ کروں گا کہ وہ بھی آ کے اپنا انٹروڈکشن کریں.
جی السلام علیکم. On behalf of Pakistan Scout and Guide Fellowship, because Bilal Saab is a international secretary of that forum, and he has to create relationship of the Pakistan Scout and Guide with them. اس پلیٹ فارم پر سر نے اتنا زبردست لیکچر دیا اور مجھے بھی بہت ساری آگاہی ہوئی کہ کتنے ایکٹ ہیں, کتنے لاز ہیں. صرف آپ لوگوں سے جو اسلام آباد میں ہیں اور کالے کوٹ کے ساتھ ہیں, ان سے اتنی گزارش ہے کہ اطہر بن اللہ صاحب نے جو ایک نیشنل پارک, جو ماربلا نیشنل پارک اسلام آباد میں دنیا کا سب سے خوبصورت پارک ہے, اس کو بچانے کے لیے ایک مونال کو سپریم کورٹ کے آرڈر پر گرانے کا حکم دیا, جس کے لیے دوبارہ کوششیں ہو رہی ہیں کہ وہاں دوبارہ اسٹیبلش ہو. جبکہ سر مزید وضاحت آپ کے ساتھ کرتے رہیں گے کہ نیشنل پارک میں کسی قسم کی کوئی کنسٹرکشن کی اجازت نہیں ہوتی ہے. تو کائنڈلی پروٹیکٹ, اس سے پہلے کہ یہ بھی غزر بنے, اسلام آباد بھی ایک کنکریٹ کا جنگل بنے, جو یہاں جنگل ہیں ان کو قائم رکھنے کے لیے جتنے لاز اور ایکٹ موجود ہیں, اس فورم پر جو بار ہے, اسلام آباد ہائی کورٹ ہے, آپ اس جنگل کو اسی طرح نیچر کو رہنے دیں جو اس کا ہیبیٹیٹ ہے, جو بھی برڈز ہیں, اینیملز ہیں. سر نے واٹر کی بات کی, لینڈ کی بات کی, ایئر کی بات کی. یہ ساری پولوشن ابھی اسلام آباد پہلے سے کچھ فرق پڑ گیا ہے, تو مزید اس میں بہتری آنی چاہیے. اور ہم لوگ جو پاکستان اسکاؤٹ اینڈ گائیڈ فیلوشپ ہے اس کے لیے کوشاں ہیں, اور ہماری کوشش اس پلیٹ فارم سے یہ ہے کہ جو ینگ بوائے اسکاؤٹس اور گرل گائیڈز آ رہے ہیں ان کے لیے ہم بیٹر اپرچونیٹیز جو ہے وہ ڈیولپ کریں. تھینک یو ویری مچ.
تھینک یو زاہد صاحب. اب میں تحریم ذکی جو کہ ایگزیکٹو ڈائریکٹر ہے رکشندہ میموریل کے, ان سے ریکویسٹ کروں گا کہ وہ آ کے اپنا بریف انٹروڈکشن دے.
Assalamu alaikum everyone. My name is Tahim Zaki. I am founder and executive director of Rakhshanda Memorial. ہماری جو این جی او ہے, اٹس اے فیمیل بیسڈ آرگنائزیشن, اٹس اے اسٹوڈنٹ فیمیل بیسڈ آرگنائزیشن, اور یہ ہماری این جی او جو ہے سیلف فنڈیڈ ہے. رکشندہ میموریل کا جو مقصد ہے وہ یہ ہے کہ پاکستان میں ڈپینڈنسی کلچر کو ایریڈیکیٹ کرنا ہے. ہم این جی اوز ایک غلطی کرتے ہیں, ہم لوگوں کی مدد تو کرتے ہیں لیکن ہم ان کو ڈپینڈنٹ کر دیتے ہیں. تو جو رکشندہ میموریل ہے, اس کے سارے پروجیکٹس اس سے الائن کرتے ہیں کہ کوئی بھی کام کرنا ہے, کوئی بھی پروجیکٹ کرنا ہے, کوئی بھی ہیلپ کرنی ہے تو وہ فری نہیں ہوگا. آئی ایم سو پراؤڈ ٹو سے دس رائٹ ناؤ کہ ہمارا ایک بہت امیزنگ پروجیکٹ ہے فوڈ اے ٹی ایم کے نام سے. فوڈ اے ٹی ایم ایک وین ہے جو 100 روپیز میں بلو ایریا میں کھانا دیتی ہے. It's not free so that everyone can buy just in 100 rupees, and جو ان کی سیلف ایفیکیسی ہے, ان کی جو عزت نفس ہے وہ بھی مجروح نہیں ہوتی. اسی طرح ہمارا ایک اور بہت امیزنگ پروجیکٹ ہے خود کفیل کے نام سے. اس کا مقصد بھی یہی ہے کہ لوگوں کو خود کفیل کرنا ہے, امپاور کرنا ہے. اس کے علاوہ آج کل انوائرمنٹ سے ریلیٹڈ اگر میں بات کروں تو ہم لوگ اسلام آباد اور پنڈی میں 3000 پودے لگا رہے ہیں, اور اس میں ہم لوگوں نے یونیورسٹیز کو, اسکولز کو, کالجز کو, پارکس کو ٹارگیٹ کیا ہے. اس کا مقصد یہ ہے کہ جو یوتھ ہے وہ بھی انگیج کرے. جو یوتھ ہے, آئی آلویز ایمفسائز آن ون تھنگ, مجھے لگتا ہے کہ ایوری انڈیویجول ان پاکستان, ایوری انڈیویجول شوڈ پلے دیئر پارٹ ان دا سوسائٹی. ہم لوگ ہمیشہ ایکسپیکٹ کرتے ہیں کہ کوئی گورنمنٹ آئے گی, کوئی میجک اسٹک ہوگی جس سے پاکستان کی ہسٹری چینج ہو جائے گی, جبکہ وہ ہم لوگ ہیں جنہوں نے پاکستان میں چینج لے کے آنا ہے. تو آج میں سب سے صرف ایک ہی بات کہوں گی, ایک ہی چیز پہ ایمفسائز کروں گی کہ آپ بھی پاکستان میں, چاہے بی اٹ بائی پلانٹنگ اے ٹری, بی اٹ بائی ہیلپنگ اینی ون, اپنا پارٹ پلے کریں, اپنا کردار ادا کریں. اور پاکستان کو اگر ہم چاہتے ہیں کہ پاکستان ایک ڈیولپ کنٹری ہو تو وی ہیو ٹو پلے اوور پارٹ ان دا سوسائٹی ٹو برنگ پازیٹیو چینج. اور اس کے علاوہ آج کل ہم لوگ پلان کر رہے ہیں ٹو وزٹ دا فلڈ ایریا ان اسکرٹو انشاءاللہ. آئی ایم سو پراؤڈ ٹو سے دیٹ کہ رکشندہ میموریل وڈ بی دا فرسٹ فیمیل بیسڈ آرگنائزیشن جو وہاں پہ وزٹ کرے گی فلڈ ایریا میں ریلیف لے کے جائے گی, اینڈ وی وڈ بی ٹارگیٹنگ ویمن اینڈ چلڈرن دیئر. اور I would like to thank all the guest speakers here. You guys are looking absolutely amazing. And اس کے علاوہ everyone in the audience, thank you for having us. And in the last, play your part in the society. If you want Pakistan beautiful, pretty and successful, it's you who will bring the change. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you Jinnah, Kainat. Allah Hafiz.
تھینک یو مس تحریم ذکی. اب میں اپنے صدر سردار محمد یعقوب مستوی صاحب سے ریکویسٹ کروں گا کہ وہ آ کے شکریہ کریں ساری گیسٹ.
بسم اللہ الرحمن الرحیم. میں اپنے تمام معزز مہمانان گرامی کا بےحد شکریہ ادا کرتا ہوں جنہوں نے اپنا قیمتی وقت نکالا. اپنی بار کے سینئر دوستوں کا اور اپنے ینگ لاٹ کا بےحد شکریہ ادا کروں گا. فیمیل لائرز کا اسپیشل شکریہ ادا کروں گا. پاکستان اسکاؤٹس اینڈ گائیڈ کا اور جناح لا فم کا. اس کے بعد رکشندہ میموریل کا. ہم پاکستان کو گرین کریں گے انشاءاللہ تعالی. یہ جو آفات ہیں ان سے بچاؤ کا بہترین سبب ہے. آپ سب سے بھی گزارش ہے, اور یہ جو ہماری یوتھ آج بیٹھی ہے یہ ہماری ہوپ بھی ہے اور فیوچر بھی ہے. ہم آپ کے لیے ہر وقت حاضر ہیں. اسلام آباد بار ایسوسیشن کا فورم آپ نوجوانوں کے لیے حاضر ہے. آپ جب چاہیں گے, جس ٹاپک پہ چاہیں گے, انشاءاللہ تعالی ہمارے بار حاضر ہے. اور آپ تمام دوستوں کی آمد کا بےحد شکریہ. اس کے بعد ہم پلانٹیشن کے لیے فیلڈ میں جائیں گے. آپ سب دوست شرکت کریں. تھینک یو.